Trump and nuclear power. I had this a couple of weeks ago. Clinton has brought it up several times, as have a lot of people, Democrat and Republican, the idea of having Trump in command of America's massive global destructive power of nuclear bombs. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why should anybody be in charge of those? And I agree. I wish we could just make them all go away. You know my position on that. But Trump is a different kettle of fish. That guy's out of his fucking mind. And whether or not we want a maniac in control of a nuclear arsenal should be a question that's easily answered as soon as you get the question out. Hell no. But anyway, what does she say? A man you can bait with a tweet is not a man we can trust with nuclear weapons. You imagine Putin tweeting something that translate, "Hey, Donald, you got a bunch of funny-ass hair." Anyway, let me share something with you. This portrayal of Trump should be kept as far away from nuclear weapons as possible. This portrayal has become such an issue in the campaign that President Obama was asked about it at a news conference where he echoed Clinton's concerns. Her statement raises a question. Is there any check on a president's power to launch nuclear arms that could destroy entire cities or nations? The short answer is no. No. History suggests that in practice, there may be ways to slow down or even derail that decision-making process that's going on in the fevered, addled, fucked-up brain of Donald Trump. But no one disputes that the president has an awesome authority. Awesome? That word doesn't quite make it. Trump is the alpha and omega about whether or not to launch nuclear weapons. If the United States appeared to be under nuclear assault, the president would have minutes to decide whether the threat was real and to fire as many as 925 nuclear warheads with a destructive force greater than 17,000 Hiroshima bombs, according to estimates by the Nuclear Information Project at the Federation of American Scientists. The commander-in-chief, which after January 20th or whatever will be Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief can also order the first use of nuclear weapons, even if the United States is not under attack. Chew that one around a little bit. Now, there have been many advocates of that in the high ranks of the military over the past 60 years. Let's bomb the Russia. Let's drop some nukes on China and Russia. Let's just clean out that rat's nest. There have been high-ranking military officers, the highest-ranking military officers, who thought that would be a good idea. There is no veto once the president has ordered the nuclear strike. The president, and only the president, has the authority to order the use of nuclear weapons. How does that make you feel? There's more. There were at least two instances since the advent of the nuclear age. Two instances in which top officials tried to slow down or undermine the president's nuclear authority. The first came in October 1969, when the president, Dick Nixon, ordered his Secretary of Defense, Melvin Laird, to put American nuclear forces on high alert to scare Moscow into thinking the United States might use nuclear arms against the North Vietnamese. Scare Russia. Scott Sagan, a nuclear expert at Stanford and the author of The Limits of Safety, said Malloy tried to ignore the order from Nixon by giving excuses about exercises and readiness, hoping that Nixon, who sometimes, more often than not, embraced the madman theory, let the world think you're so fucked up that you're about to launch nuclear weapons. Oh, that makes sense, doesn't it? And Malloy was hoping Nixon would forget the order. But Nixon persisted. Dr. Carl Sagan reports that during this operation, which was codenamed Giant Lance, it's always about dicks, isn't it? Giant Lance! We're just going to ram it right into you there, buddy. Dr. Sagan reported that during that operation, codenamed Giant Lance, one of the B-52 bombers carrying thermonuclear arms came dangerously close to having an accident. There are no accidents when you're dealing with nuclear weapons. I mean, you may say, if you're the one that caused the accident, oh, it was an accident. But the other side is going to say goodbye, because they will have already launched hundreds of thermonuclear weapons. Then in 1974, in the last days of the Watergate scandal, Nixon was drinking heavily, and his aides saw what they feared was a growing emotional instability. Nixon was rock solid compared to Trump. Nixon was a paragon of rationality compared to Trump. But I digress. Anyway, Nixon's new Secretary of Defense, James Schlesinger, who was very hawkish. He was one of the people that I'm sure dreamed about bombing the Soviet Union, although he didn't bring it up in public. But he, Schlesinger, instructed the military to divert any emergency orders, especially ones involving nuclear weapons, to him, Schlesinger, or, don't laugh, to the Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. Oh, my God. What a gang of outlaws we had, right? We're about to get another gang. Anyway, it was a completely extra-legal order, perhaps mutinous, but nobody questioned it, because they knew that Nixon was about a silly millimeter away from a complete break with reality. But Nixon was rock-solid sane compared to Donald Trump. Anyway, in a 2013 book, Command and Control, Eric Schlosser wrote, quote, although Schlesinger's order raised questions about who was actually in command, seemed like a good idea at the time to make sure that Nixon, in his psychotic and or drunken state, did not wander into whatever room and get on the phone and say, launch him, launch him, launch! In 1980, Zbigniew Brzezinski, national security dude to Carter, was awakened by news of an impending nuclear attack that was lighting up the screens at the military's early warning command centers. Here they come. Here they come. Here they come. It's all over. Give your soul to God because your ass belongs to thermonuclear fire. Here it comes. So Brzezinski, Mika's dad, asked the military officer who called him for more information and confirmation. The next call said that the attack involved not just submarines, but thousands of warheads fired from land-based missiles. Holy shit! As Brzezinski prepared to call Carter and I guess tell him goodbye, this officer called back to say it was all a mistake. A computer had generated a false alarm. A computer had generated a false alarm. That was one of the things that used to give me sleepless nights back in the 70s and 80s. I guess not so much in the 90s because, like I said a couple of nights ago, I just, at some point I just decided, fuck it. If there is a nuclear exchange, there won't be survivors like there was in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as messed up and hurt and destroyed as the survivors were. But we're not going to have any survivors anywhere because it will be no holds barred. This is not going to be, I'm going to throw a nuclear bomb at you. No. It will be, I'm going to throw 1,000 nuclear bombs at you. And the other side, of course, will say, have at it. I'm going to send 1,000 at you. So the episode about the computer error, as it says here, poses the ultimate question for a new administration. A set of judgments that the President, the Secretary of Defense, and the National Military Command often rehearse in secret, especially at the beginning of a presidency. Trump is going to be involved in this. Because all warning systems are subject to error. What's the oldest rule in computing? Garbage in, garbage out. They're all, and it's worse than that, of course, they're all subject to error. The president has to decide, often within minutes, whether to launch on warning, to launch on attack, or to absorb the first nuclear strike rather than risk launching on false information. Donald Trump is going to be confronted with those three choices. Maybe not because there are nuclear missiles headed our way, but he's going to have to, at some point, it will be explained to him, these are your three choices. Launch on warning, launch on attack, or take the first blow because it might be a mistake. In the case of Trump, there is a different fear, of course, that this clown bastard who regards himself as America's best negotiator may try to use the threat of employing nuclear weapons as a bargaining chip. He makes deals. Do what I'm saying or I'm going to fucking kill you. And I'm going to kill everybody. So what do you want to do? You want to build a wall or you want me to turn your country into nothing? Remember, Trump had asked some advisor, what was the use of having nuclear weapons if you weren't going to use them? Now, just that question, just that question speaks volumes about what nuclear holocaust, the end of life on the planet, and all this other shit, what it means to Trump. Nothing.